Dallas is home to the Cowboys, oil money, and BBQ that'll change your life. But here's the wild thing about this city. While everyone was watching tech bros and energy executives build empires, a handful of black men were quietly building their own fortunes. Their stories involve a 7th-grade dropout who sold a staffing empire, an ER doctor who pivoted to managing $665 million in private equity, and a guy who got rejected by McDonald's and then built 24 franchises generating $125 million in sales. Let's break down the 8 richest black men from Dallas, and trust me, the name at number 1 will blow your mind. Number 8. Haye. From 7th-grade dropout to staffing empire. Let's start with Haye, because his story is the kind of thing people claim is impossible until someone actually does it. Haye was a 7th-grade dropout. Not someone who struggled through high school and barely graduated, but he literally dropped out in middle school and had to build everything from there. Fast forward a few decades, and Haye founded All Temps One Personnel in Dallas around 1985, a staffing firm that became one of the largest black-owned businesses in the city. The company provided temporary and contract staffing to North Texas firms across healthcare, banking, and IT, eventually serving dozens of Fortune 500 clients with annual revenues in the tens of millions. Here's what makes staffing businesses interesting as wealth vehicles. The margins are thin, but the volume is massive. And once you lock in corporate accounts, you're essentially printing recurring revenue. Companies need workers constantly, especially for seasonal spikes and project-based work, which means once you're embedded in their HR systems, switching costs are high enough that clients rarely leave. Haye built All Temps by cultivating those corporate relationships over years, becoming a trusted vendor for major Dallas companies that needed reliable talent pipelines. By 2008, he'd grown the firm large enough to merge with a bigger national staffing company, eventually selling his stake in the early 2010s for undisclosed terms that likely made him a multi-millionaire several times over. But here's what separates Haye's story from typical business success narratives. He didn't just build wealth and disappear. He became chairman of the Dallas Business Journal's Black Chamber of Commerce around 2007, using his platform to advocate for minority business development across the city. He served on United Way boards, founded scholarships at local colleges, and became known in Dallas black business circles for speaking at schools about entrepreneurship. The 7th-grade dropout became the guy giving commencement speeches about persistence and grit, which is either incredibly inspiring or proof that the American education system is wildly inefficient depending on how you look at it. Probably both. Haye's lifestyle details are sparse. He kept a relatively low profile compared to flashier entrepreneurs, but as a successful CEO who sold a major staffing firm, he's known to drive luxury cars and frequent exclusive Dallas restaurants. The exact sale price of All Temps remains undisclosed, but selling a staffing company doing tens of millions in revenue typically generates 7-figure payouts minimum, especially if you're the majority owner. A 7th-grade dropout built a staffing empire and sold it for millions. Inspiring grind. But wait till you hear about a man who's been quietly controlling Dallas real estate for decades without anyone noticing. Number 7. Herron. The real estate power player nobody talks about. Herron is the definition of invisible wealth. You've probably never heard of him unless you're deep in Dallas business circles, but he's been quietly controlling significant real estate in the city for decades as president of Century 21 Galloway Herron. Herron is Dallas-born and has spent his entire career here, investing in commercial and residential properties whose combined portfolio value likely sits in the tens of millions. His firm, Galloway Herron, specializes in retail and office properties across Dallas, and Herron owns a major stake in the operation he's guided since the 1980s. Here's what makes real estate wealth different from other types on this list. It's patient capital that compounds through appreciation and rental income simultaneously. Herron didn't flip properties for quick gains. He held them for decades, collecting rent while the underlying land appreciated as Dallas grew from a regional city into a major metropolitan hub. The real estate game in Dallas over the past 40 years has been absurdly profitable for anyone who bought and held. Property values in prime locations have increased 5 to 10 times or more, and commercial real estate generates cash flow the entire time through tenant leases. Herron positioned himself in this ecosystem early and rode the wave up. In 1987, Herron became president of the Dallas Black Chamber of Commerce and dramatically grew membership from about 200 to over 1,200 members, tripling the organization's reach and influence. That kind of community leadership creates both social capital and business opportunities. When you're the face of Black business in Dallas, every entrepreneur in the city knows who you are, which opens doors for deals and partnerships. Herron also sits on boards that actually matter. Wynwood Bank, Bank of Texas, and even the DFW Airport Board, giving him influence on regional development decisions that directly impact real estate values. That's not accidental. Being on the airport board means you know about infrastructure plans years before they're public, which is incredibly valuable information for someone investing in commercial property. Herron represents old-school Dallas business power, real estate holdings built over decades, civic leadership that creates influence beyond net worth, and a low public profile that keeps details private while the portfolio compounds quietly. It's not flashy, but it's effective, and it's how generational wealth actually gets preserved. Real estate empires and airport board influence. That's quiet power. Now let's talk about someone whose voice you've definitely heard. The gospel legend with 16 Grammys and a Southlake mansion. Number 6. Kirk Franklin. $8.5 million gospel empire. Kirk Franklin was born in Fort Worth in 1970 and became the first gospel artist to fill stadiums, sell over 20 million albums worldwide, and win 16 Grammy Awards while maintaining a home base in the Dallas area where he still lives in Southlake. Franklin's estimated net worth sits around $8.5 million, built primarily through gospel music sales, touring, and TV production. He founded the gospel group The Family in the early 90s, then later formed God's Property, whose album God's Property from Kirk Franklin's New Nation sold over 5 million copies, an absolutely massive number for gospel music. Here's what's interesting about Franklin's wealth model. Gospel music doesn't generate the same revenue as mainstream pop or hip-hop, but it has incredible longevity and loyal fan bases that keep buying. Franklin's albums from the 90s still generate royalties today through licensing, samples, and streaming, creating passive income that compounds over decades. He also produces gospel reality TV, most notably BET's Sunday Best, which adds television production income to his revenue streams. His 2005 autobiography, The Blueprint, was a bestseller, and he runs Kirk Franklin Ministries, plus a production company for TV and film projects. Franklin's touring revenue is where serious money gets made. Gospel tours might not hit arena capacity like pop stars, but ticket prices remain strong and production costs are lower, meaning profit margins can actually exceed mainstream tours. His 2004 Soul to Soul gospel tour with Mary Mary was record-breaking for gospel music, proving there's substantial money in faith-based entertainment when you're the top name in the genre. His Southlake home is worth several million and sits in one of the most affluent Dallas suburbs. He drives luxury cars, Cadillac Escalade, Mercedes, and collects art by African-American artists. He attends Dallas cultural institutions regularly and holds honorary memberships in several civic organizations. But Franklin's real cultural power extends beyond wealth metrics. He's positioned gospel music as stadium-worthy entertainment, influenced multiple generations of artists, and maintained relevance across 3 decades in an industry where most acts disappear after 1 or 2 albums. His philanthropy focuses on at-risk families through the Kirk Franklin Imagine Group, which provides food and outreach programs. He's also a spokesman for anti-poverty coalitions and donates to churches and education funds across Fort Worth and Dallas. Franklin represents cultural wealth, using artistic talent to build a multi-million-dollar empire while maintaining credibility in faith communities and influencing mainstream music simultaneously. Rolling Stone ranked him among their 100 greatest artists of all time in 2023, which is wild for a gospel artist and shows how far his influence extends beyond his genre. At $8.5 million, Franklin might not be the richest on this list, but his cultural impact and sustained career longevity make him one of the most significant Dallas-connected figures in music history. 16 Grammys and stadium-filling gospel tours built $8.5 million are indeed impressive. But what happens when you grow up in a housing project and build a supply chain empire serving Fortune 500 companies? Number 5. Albert C. Black Jr., the supply chain mogul from the projects. Albert C. Black Jr. was born in 1959 and raised in Dallas's Fraser Courts housing project, which is about as far from corporate boardrooms as you can start. But Black earned a BBA from UT Dallas and an MBA from SMU, then co-founded On Target Supplies and Logistics in 1982 with basically nothing. On Target is a wholesale distributor of janitorial, maintenance, and MRO, maintenance, repair, and operations, supplies serving schools, hospitals, and large companies across Texas and beyond. Under Black's leadership, it grew from a 2-person startup to a major distributor with approximately 190 employees and annual revenue estimated in the tens of millions. Here's the wealth mechanic that most people miss about distribution businesses. The margins are thin, maybe 5 to 15%, but the volume is absolutely massive. When you're supplying janitorial products to every major hospital in Dallas-Fort Worth, you're moving millions of dollars in goods annually, and even small percentage margins add up to serious money. Black famously balanced 2 jobs for a decade while growing On Target, grinding through the early years when cash flow was tight and every account mattered. By the time he stepped down as CEO in 2018 to let his son Trey take over, On Target had branches across DFW, plus Houston and Tucson, with annual revenues that likely exceeded $50 million based on employee count and industry comparisons. As majority owner, Black retains the bulk of the company's equity value, even after transitioning day-to-day management to Trey. This structure, building a company, professionalizing management, then stepping back while maintaining ownership, is classic generational wealth preservation. Black still serves as chairman, providing strategic oversight while his son runs operations. But here's where Black's story gets even more interesting. In 2006, he launched Ready to Work through On Target, a workforce training nonprofit that's provided job training to thousands of unemployed or disadvantaged Texans. He's also chaired boards for Baylor Healthcare System, helped found Baylor's Diabetes Institute, chaired the Charles Sammons Cancer Center, and served on the Dallas Housing Authority. Black was the first African American to serve as chairman of the Dallas Regional Chamber, which is massive from a civic influence perspective. When you're chairing the main business organization for an entire metropolitan area, you're shaping economic policy and development priorities at the highest levels. Reports indicate Black owns a custom-built mansion in Dallas and drives luxury vehicles. He's a member of the Dallas Petroleum Club and travels internationally for business, living the lifestyle you'd expect from someone who built a multi-million-dollar distribution empire from scratch. Black has won 3 TY Supplier Excellence Awards, the Congressional Black Caucus Business Leadership Award, and been named CEO of the Year by multiple industry groups. His story of housing projects to corporate boardrooms is the kind of narrative that sounds too perfect until you realize it actually happened through decades of relentless work. Next up, we have an ER doctor who pivoted into private equity and managed hundreds of millions. Number 4. Neland Youngblood, the doctor who became a dealmaker. Neland Youngblood was born in 1955 near Houston, but established his career in Dallas, and his trajectory is genuinely wild. ER doctor to private equity founder managing hundreds of millions in assets. Youngblood was an All-American swimmer at SMU, then worked as an ER physician in Plano from 1985 to 1997, while simultaneously getting involved in business and investment circles. In 1994, he co-founded Pharos Capital Group in Dallas, a private equity firm focused on growth-stage healthcare and tech companies. At its peak, Pharos Capital managed approximately $665 million in assets under management according to Bloomberg, making it one of the leading Black-owned private equity firms in the country. As founding partner, Youngblood held significant equity in both Pharos itself and its portfolio companies, building wealth through management fees and carried interest on successful exits. Here's how private equity wealth works. Firms typically charge 2% annual management fees on assets under management, plus 20% carried interest on profits above a certain return threshold. on $665 million AUM. That's roughly $13 million in annual management fees split among partners, plus potentially massive payouts when portfolio companies exit successfully. Pharos focused on late-stage investments in consumer and healthcare brands, including a $40 million financing of Iverson Genetics in 1999 and investments in ready-to-eat pasta businesses. The firm raised multiple funds, including Fund 2 in 2007 at $300 million, demonstrating LP confidence in their investment approach. Youngblood retired from active management in 2018 but retained partnership interests, meaning he continues earning from Pharos's ongoing operations and portfolio exits. That's passive wealth generation from deals structured decades ago, the ultimate form of making money while sleeping. Youngblood owned upscale homes in both Dallas and Sedona, Arizona, and is known to charter private jets. He was a White House Fellow, served on the National Park Foundation appointed by Clinton, and has honorary doctorates from SMU and Texas Christian University. He ran for Dallas mayor in 2011 but lost in the primary, which suggests serious political ambitions beyond just business success. He's also been a Democratic Party fundraiser and Biden bundler, showing how wealth translates into political influence. Youngblood once joked, "I invest in pills and dollars," and in all honesty, it perfectly captures his dual focus on healthcare and finance. The ER doctor background gave him domain expertise in healthcare investing that most private equity guys don't have, creating competitive advantage in deal evaluation and portfolio company management. Press estimates from the 2000s suggested Youngblood's personal net worth was in the low tens of millions, though exact figures remain undisclosed. For context, successful private equity partners at firms managing $600 million plus typically build net worths exceeding $20 to $50 million over 20-plus-year careers. An ER doctor managing $665 million in private equity. That's legendary pivot play. Now let's talk about a megachurch bishop who just announced a billion-dollar community investment deal. Number 3. T.D. Jakes, $20 million megachurch empire. Thomas Dexter. Jakes was born in 1957 and founded the Potter's House megachurch in Dallas in 1996, growing it from a warehouse operation into one of the largest churches in America with over 30,000 members and a 5,000-seat sanctuary. Jakes' estimated net worth sits around $20 million, built through book sales, speaking engagements, church operations, film production, and media ventures under T.D. Jakes Enterprises. He's authored dozens of best-selling books, produced films like Woman, Thou Art Loosed, and earned a Grammy Award for Best Gospel Album in 2004. But before we move forward and tell you how Jake took a major financial step in 2024, here's some good news for you. We're offering exclusive memberships for our loyal subscribers, which include early access to exclusive content, loyalty badges in your name, and official shoutouts in our videos. Join Black Status as a channel member right now and become part of the inner circle. Let's build this community together. See you on the inside. Now, here's where Jakes' wealth and influence get really interesting. In 2024, he announced a joint $1 billion investment program with Wells Fargo for community development in underserved areas. That's billion with a B, not his personal money, but institutional capital he helped structure and will help deploy, giving him enormous influence over how that money gets invested across communities. The Potter's House itself is a business empire disguised as a church. It operates an education center, bookstore, recording label called Dexterity Sounds, and co-founded religious TV networks. Jakes oversees programs that generate revenue through multiple streams: book sales and royalties, speaking fees that can hit 6 figures per appearance, film production income, and church operations. Megachurch pastors occupy this weird space where it's unclear where personal wealth ends and church assets begin. Jakes lives in a luxurious estate near Dallas, maintains a multi-million-dollar art collection, drives high-end vehicles like Mercedes-Benz and Cadillac Escalade, and travels globally for speaking tours. His lifestyle reflects serious wealth even if the exact net worth figures are debated. Time magazine named him one of the 25 most influential evangelicals in 2005, and his films have earned NAACP Image Awards for faith-based content. The Woman, Thou Art Loosed, Franchise alone, book, TV special, film, has generated millions in revenue across multiple formats. Jakes' philanthropy through the TD Jakes Foundation funds schooling and relief projects, and he's active in Dallas civic initiatives around education reform and urban development. In 2023, he helped raise $8 million for HBCU scholarships. There was controversy in 2011 when two men publicly alleged defamation and extortion, but Jakes successfully sued them and no evidence of wrongdoing was found. Otherwise, his record remains relatively clean for someone at his visibility level. Jakes often preaches in cowboy boots, which has become a signature style element, and he built the Potter's House after living in a 4-car garage chapel, a rags to riches narrative that resonates with his congregation. What makes Jakes significant beyond wealth is cultural influence. He's shaped prosperity gospel theology, influenced political discourse around faith and policy, and built media platforms that reach millions. His $20 million net worth might seem modest compared to secular entertainers, but his ability to mobilize a $1 billion investment fund shows influence that transcends personal wealth. Jakes represents faith-based entrepreneurship, using spiritual leadership as a platform for media ventures, book deals, and speaking engagements that generate wealth while maintaining tax-advantaged church status. It's a model that's made him one of the most financially successful religious leaders in America. A megachurch empire and a billion-dollar investment deal, that's institutional power. But what about someone who owns 24 McDonald's franchises generating $116 million in sales? Number 2. Roland Parish, the McDonald's franchise king. Roland Parish is a Dallas-area entrepreneur based in Oak Cliff who's built one of the most impressive McDonald's franchise empires in the country. As of 2024, Parish owns 24 McDonald's restaurants across the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, with plans to hit 25 soon, generating combined sales of $116.1 million in 2023 and projected around $125 million by 2025. Let that number sink in for a second. $125 million in annual sales from fast food franchises. That's not revenue from some tech unicorn or oil company. That's burgers and fries moving through drive-thrus at a scale most people can't comprehend. Parish founded Parish Restaurants, LLC in 1989 after previously working at Exxon and training in McDonald's management. But here's the backstory that makes his success even more impressive. He was initially turned down as a McDonald's franchisee in 1986. The company said no, and most people would have given up. Parish persisted, and 3 years later opened his first location in Dallas's Pleasant Grove district on Juneteenth 1989 with a $500,000 investment. That first store famously ran 30 to 60% above McDonald's projections, which is absolutely massive in franchise operations where margins are thin and every percentage point matters. Parish's approach to Dallas business is long-range thinking. He focuses on community engagement and operational quality rather than short-term profit maximization, and it's paid off for over 35 years. By 2018, Parish owned 23 stores. He's since added prime locations including Dallas Love Field Airport and DFW International Airport, which are high-traffic, high-revenue locations that most franchisees never access. Airport McDonald's generates significantly more sales per square foot than typical locations due to captive customer bases. Parish Restaurants employs approximately 1,450 people as of 2024, making it one of the largest Black-owned employers in North Texas. As majority owner, Parish controls the company's equity value, which on $125 million in annual revenue likely exceeds $50 to $100 million in total enterprise value. Here's the wealth mechanic. McDonald's franchises typically generate 10 to 15% profit margins after all expenses, meaning Parish's operation probably nets $12 to $18 million annually in profit. As majority owner, the vast majority flows to him, creating serious cash flow that can be reinvested into new locations, real estate, or other ventures. But what makes Parish's story culturally significant is his philanthropy. In 2023 to 24, he donated $2 million to Purdue University to endow a management library and $3 million to Fisk University to fund a career center. both now named after him. His family foundation raises scholarships for Dallas students, distributing roughly $150,000 annually for local college students. Dallas dedicated a 23-acre Oak Cliff Park in his name for his civic contributions. He also sponsors youth programs, including band, debate, and internships with the Texas Rangers. In 2024, he received the prestigious Linz Award for Outstanding Civic Leadership. Parish resides in Oak Cliff and has mentioned owning investment properties beyond his primary residence, though exact personal asset details remain private. He's a regular at Dallas charity galas and board meetings, frequently profiled as a role model for minority business success. Parish famously balanced a 50-hour-per-week Exxon job while training 23 hours weekly at McDonald's before opening his first franchise. That's 73-hour weeks for years just to get the opportunity to start. Most people quit when it gets hard. But Parish worked 2 full-time jobs simultaneously because he understood the long-term payoff. At $116 to $125 million in annual sales from 24 locations, Parish represents the franchise empire wealth model. Choose a proven system, execute it better than anyone else, reinvest profits into expansion, build community goodwill, and compound growth over decades. It's not sexy, but it's incredibly effective, and it's made him one of the most successful Black McDonald's franchisees in America. And now, sitting at our #1 spot is a 2-sport Hall of Famer who played in both a Super Bowl and a World Series. Let's take a look. Number 1, Deion Sanders, $60 million. Primetime legacy. And here we are, primetime himself, Deion Sanders. Senior, born in 1967, now 58 years old, with an estimated net worth around $60 million built across one of the most unique athletic careers in history. Sanders is the only person ever to play in both a Super Bowl and a World Series. Read that again, the only one. In 1989, he hit a Major League Baseball home run and scored an NFL touchdown in the same week. His nicknames Primetime and Neon Deion reflected a personality bigger than any single sport could contain. Sanders played for the Dallas Cowboys from 1995 to 1999, winning a Super Bowl championship in 1995 and becoming one of the most electrifying cornerbacks in NFL history. He earned approximately $45 million in NFL contracts and $13 million in MLB contracts, plus lucrative endorsements with Nike, Pepsi, and Burger King that added millions more. But here's where Sanders' wealth story gets really interesting. His recent 5-year coaching contract with the University of Colorado, signed in 2022 and extended in 2025, is worth $54 million total, roughly $10 to $12 million annually. That's more than he made in many of his playing years, proving that Coach Prime is just as marketable as the player ever was. Sanders' Dallas connection runs deep. He owned a massive estate in the Dallas suburb of Prosper, approximately 30,000 square feet recently listed at $5.5 million. That property alone represents serious wealth, and he's owned multiple high-end vehicles including Mercedes and Cadillac Escalades, plus a vacation home in Florida. His lifestyle has always been flamboyant. Designer clothes, custom hats, yacht appearances during NFL off-seasons. Sanders never apologized for enjoying his wealth publicly, which made him a polarizing figure but also incredibly marketable. Love him or hate him, you couldn't ignore him. Sanders was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame in 2011 after 8 Pro Bowl selections and 2 Super Bowl championships, 1994 with San Francisco, 1995 with Dallas. He was NFL Defensive Player of the Year in 1994. On the baseball side, he won a World Series with the 1992 Atlanta Braves. His current role as University of Colorado head coach has revitalized his public profile. He's turned Colorado football into must-watch television, recruited top talent, and generated massive media attention that's increased his personal brand value significantly. His sons play for him, creating a family dynasty narrative that resonates with fans. Sanders established the Primetime Association, a nonprofit focused on mentoring youth in sports and leadership. He's donated to schools and community projects in Texas, especially programs for underprivileged youth. He's also an active fundraiser for children's health and veterans charities. There was a health scare in 2023 involving blood clots that made national news, but Sanders recovered and returned to coaching. Otherwise, his record remains relatively controversy-free for someone with his visibility and personality. Sanders' wealth represents multi-platform earnings, NFL contracts, MLB contracts, endorsement deals, media appearances, and now coaching salary. His ability to monetize his personality across sports, entertainment, and education shows he understood personal branding decades before it became a buzzword. At $60 million, Sanders is the wealthiest person on this list, and his cultural impact extends far beyond Dallas. But his Cowboys years cemented him as a Dallas icon, and his continued presence in Texas through philanthropy and community engagement keeps him connected to the city that helped make him a legend. From two-sport superstar to Hall of Fame inductee to Coach Prime, leading one of college football's biggest turnaround stories, Deion Sanders proved that athletic excellence combined with relentless self-promotion and smart financial management can build generational wealth that lasts long after the game's end. And there you have it, the 8 richest black men from Dallas. Which of these stories inspired you the most? Let me know in the comments. And for more such interesting peeks into the lives of rich black individuals, take a look at Black Status. See you in the next video.